don't make sense what the suffering was for. Cause I got out my head and I got in my bag. No time to be crying, there's money to make. I'll do what I gotta, whatever it takes. Cause I'm pushing myself to be one of the great. And my time is right now, I cannot wait.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. Now, first and foremost, as always, I always want to take a moment. Actually, I haven't done this the last few episodes, but I want to take a moment and just say I appreciate every single one of you guys that take time to download, listen, share, talk about my podcast, because I'm actually really engineering my entire life to get into an alignment to take this podcast to the next level. I feel like I say it a lot, but it's like, the podcast is me. The podcast is my mindset. The podcast is who I am as a person. And I think the best thing that I love about the podcast is that I really get to just to be myself. And it's just so soul nurturing, so rejuvenating, and I just have such an immense amount of appreciation for everything about it, because there's nothing on this podcast that I talk about that isn't from the heart or really thought thoroughly of why I want to talk about it and what angle of the topic I want you guys to resonate with. And what I mean by angle resonating with is I never want to come on here and rant without you guys getting some sort of takeaway to, really change your guys' life and perspective. That's the biggest thing about my podcast is I like to be as vulnerable as I can, share as much of my experiences as I can, but also make sure there's some sort of actionable takeaway that you guys can implement immediately, because it's always I don't know, you guys always hear me talk about soothing the pain and traumas and things like that and making purpose of it. And that's the whole point of everything when it comes to mental health, mindset, changing your life, is making purpose of it all, And today what I want to talk about was committing to your goals. So I want to talk about committing to the durations of your entire goals. Not talking about signing up and be okay, I want to take a crack at it. I'm not talking about signing up for a course and be I want to see what it's about. I'm not talking about I want to sign up for the gym membership and maybe lose 20 pounds or gain 20 pounds and see if I can do it. I'm talking about committing to your goals 10 out of 10, 10 toes down, chin up, chest out, relentlessly. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because working primarily in the mental health, mindset, and fitness coaching sector, especially online where there's no facility that I particularly work out of, there's no real center base forward aside from me. And so what that comes is I notice there's a lot of people that every single one of us wants to change our lives. It's facts, and if you don't agree, you're just straight up lying or you're denying some part of your life. But every single one of us wants to be a better version of ourselves. It's almost like the grass is always greener, if you will, no matter how much success we see, no matter what heights of our life we see in any area of success, whether it's career, whether it's financial, whether it's relationship, whether it's the gym, whether it's fitness, whether it's mindset, there's always going to be that snippet of, it could be better, it could be more, it could be faster, it could be stronger, it could be smarter, it could be better. It's just one of those things. We're human. We're wired that way, especially with today's day in society with social conditioning and social media. We're just programmed that way. It's just a dopamine and serotonin fucking annihilator. You know what I mean? But the reason why I want to talk about committing to your goals and the entire duration of it is because it's October right now. We're just transitioning into November. We got 2 more months left of the year, and I find being in this space for the last 3 to 5 years, particularly being really, 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 really busy the last 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. It's just about just shy of a year, almost pretty much a year actually, just being busy the last year. I've really noticed a lot of trends and flows in the world, in terms of everyone's commitment and everyone's focus and attention to detail and excuses, right? So when I say committing to your goals in the entire duration of it, I'm talking about during the summertime, during the fall months, during Christmas, during those hard times of the year that, ultimately we fucking know is going to come around. We have the same day every year come around and we're still not prepared for it. But I don't want to jump the gun. I want to break this episode down into 3 topics. Number 1 is doing things you've never done to get to where you've never been. We have to talk about this. Number 2 is don't let the small excuses knock you down. This is ultimately a reflection of your self-worth. Number 3 is do the hard work that's necessary or get the fuck out of the way. And I mean that with love. We're going to break this all down. So when I say do things you've never done to get to where you've never been, the first talking point is have you hit this goal before? You know what I mean? Have you got really uncomfortable to accomplish this goal and have done things you've never done to actually try to get this goal done? And a prime example of this, right? Let's say you're going to the gym to lose 20 pounds. Let's say you're going to the gym to gain 20 pounds. Let's say you sign up for a Spartan race or a bodybuilding show or something that's performance-based. Are you going to do things that you've never done to get to where you've never been? Prime example is like, I've never played sports, so me getting into the gym, I never had an athletic background, so there's a lot of new movements that are not in my vocabulary for my body. Like, I'm not. That's the biggest thing with fitness too, is like everyone puts me on this pedestal, lower body fat percentage and shape, these different things. I'm not athletic. I'm not in shape when it comes to cardiovascular. You know, I can't run 5Ks efficiently. I've never ran a 10K. I'm not programmed this way. You know, that's why I always hype up people that play sports or go for like performance-based goals, because a lot of the times those people are doing things they've never done to get to where they've never been. But, you know, even when it comes down to losing 20 pounds, it's like, and it goes into like certain avenues of your programming, a certain exercise, a certain volume in the gym, certain types of movements, certain types of lifestyle habits you got to change. Like, are you doing things you've never done to get to where you've never been? And that kind of goes back and forth about us having a conversation about like, you know, comfortability versus being uncomfortable. And it's like, that's primarily what I'm trying to get you to understand, is like, if you're comfortably trying to like commit to your goals during a certain duration of whatever you've committed to, and you're not uncomfortable, then you're just ultimately not going to get to the results that you want, because you have to do things you've never done to get to places you've never been. Like, when I wanted to lose all this body fat percentage, I had to track my nutrition and learn about it fucking so in-depthly that like I coach people with it now. You know what I mean? That's how much I had to learn about it. So I had to do things I've never done, because I never had that knowledge or that skill set 3 months before I tried that. Same with going to the gym. Like, going to the gym, I never was a male figure that was like aesthetically pleasing, that like most people would be like, oh man, this guy's an alpha male. Like, you know, I hit puberty late, I never had muscles, never played sports. I was just a skinny, chubby, fat kid, you know? So like, when I would go to the gym, like every single movement, whether it's the bench press, whether it's the curls, the tricep extensions, like every single movement, I had to fucking learn for myself. So I had to do things I've never done to get to where I've never been. You know what I mean? And even like with my career that I'm doing right now, like I'm literally recording a podcast because it's part of my job that I love to do, and I'm grateful that I do it. And it's like, I'm doing this right now, and it's like, I've had to go, you know how hard it was to learn how to do this? Like, if you actually seen the setup that I have right now and how I do this podcast, you'd actually laugh compared to how I started, because I had to do things I've never done to get to where I've never been. You know what I mean? So the biggest thing with this topic I want you to take away is that you need to get uncomfortable while you're committing to your goals. Because if you say you commit to your goals for a year, and then between 3 months and 9 months you're having trouble committing to them, you got to ask yourself, are you uncomfortable or are you just comfortable? Because if you're comfortable looking at it, being like, well, like, you know, this isn't really going, that's on you. That's your mindset. You have a shitty ass fucking mindset. And that's almost where at the end where I say, like, get out of the way, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's like, you have to be uncomfortable, and you have to do things you've never done to get to places you've never been. Topic number 2 is, don't let the small excuses knock you down, because this is ultimately a reflection of your self-worth. And what I mean by like the small excuses are like the ones that we know are coming up, like my birthday. Like, you know, your birthday's coming up, and most of you guys will literally let your birthday ruin you for 3 or 4 days, because you're like, oh, there's so many celebrations, there's so many people like this, there's like, I had cake, I had a couple of drinks, I had this. It took me 3 or 4 days to get back on the wagon. It's like, your birthday is one fucking day of the year. There's 365 days of the year. It's a one day. You know, I'm not denying, like, you know, going to different friend groups and family groups and things like that. But if it's, say your birthday is October 29th, and October 1st comes, and you know your birthday's coming around, you can plan around that and get prepared. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, going back to your self-worth, it's like, this is a small excuse that you let knock you down, which ultimately goes back, it's a reflection of your self-worth. You don't find yourself worthy enough to keep the structure and standard high, you know, so it's an excuse. Same thing here, and this may trigger some people, is like, you know, my kids are going back to school, you know, or Christmas is coming up, finances are getting tight, and all these different things, or I have work events going on, and I just can't find time to manage everything. Like, to be honest, these are the small excuses that you honestly have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what the fuck are these excuses? Because these are small excuses that you can't deny that you don't know are going to come up. You know, your birthday's the same time every year, Christmas is the same time every year. If you have kids and you have school, they go to school the same time every single year. And that's the reason why most of you guys don't see success in your life, is because the same thing as talking point number 1. You've got to do things you've never done to get to places you've never been. So it's like, if these are all the things that you have up in your life that you are on the back foot managing, because if you think these are excuses in terms of why you can't commit to your fitness goals, why you can't see success with the gym, can't see success with your career, your relationships, your personal life, your weight loss, your muscle gain, your career, whatever it is, then it's like, that's entirely your mindset, which is why I want you to understand that it's a reflection of your self-worth. You don't find yourself valuable enough to commit to a schedule and a structure that gets you on the front foot of managing your birthday and letting it only take 1 or 2 days out of your life, because you're actually paying attention to the avenues of your life you should be, and you're not going to allow it to be an excuse to knock off everything for 4 to 5 days or up to a week. You know, you have kids, like, listen, I don't have kids, so this may be a little bit biased, but if you have kids that go to school every single year, the same time of year. Same with Christmas. Like, I celebrate Christmas. I have friends and family I celebrate Christmas with, you know, and it's like every year I know it's the same time every year. It's December 25th. I mean, if anyone else has a different day for Christmas, let me know, but it's like, we know the holidays are coming up. So it's like, how come during these times we're not planned or structured to understand it? It's no different than when you have a car or you're saving up to buy a house. It's like, you take like $20 here, $5 here, $15 here every week or every 2 weeks. No different than your fitness goals. You track your macros a little bit more every week, get better every week. Same with if going to the gym, you go a little bit harder, a little bit more, and it's every single week. And then when these times come up, it's not about it being a detrimental fucking thing to your life, and you think, oh my god, I can't fucking do this. And these are all these little bit shitty excuses. And that's why I want to say talking point number 2 is, don't let the small excuses knock you down, is because it all just comes down to a reflection of your self-worth. You don't find yourself worthy enough to stay structured and get on the front foot and stay structured and disciplined around these times. Because you can't tell me that if someone comes up every single week at the same time, every single year at the same time, at all these different times, and you don't learn to prepare for it, you can't tell me that that's not your own fault. You know, and that, like, to be honest, I'm just going to leave it there because I don't want that one to be too, like, opinionated or, you know, go off a little bit too hard. But the biggest thing with it is just understanding that, like, these are all small excuses that if you just don't take ownership over them, they're always going to be issues, quote unquote. You're always going to see them as issues, you know. And it's not about feeling adversity or feeling resistance or having these things come up and be stressful. Like, they're stressful times, you know what I mean? It's no different than like exam season at school, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's going to come up every year, and it's like, you know, regardless of how much you prep for that schooling or prep for the exam or whatever, you're still going to be stressed. But you can for sure do things to prepare so you're not as stressed. You know what I'm saying? You can for sure prepare to make sure that when your birthday comes up each year, you're just that much more prepared. Christmas is a fucking easy one. Everyone uses money as an excuse for Christmas. It's always going to be stressful. It's always going to be stressful. There's always going to be money being spent out that you don't plan on. That's like having a car as well. You know what I mean? You don't think you need new tires. Well, guess what? You're owed $1,000. You know, guess what? You hit a pothole, your fucking rotor goes on your car or something. That's a couple $100. So it's like, it's all about you knowing, having self-worth and self-value, that you're not going to let the small excuses knock you down, because you're going to prepare for the things that come up anyways, and you're going to have self-worth and self-value to say, I respect myself, to stick and be disciplined to a structured plan or structured avenue in my life to make sure this standard of this part of my life is high. And this is honestly a perfect segue to talking point number 3, which is do the hard work that's necessary, or just get the fuck out of the way. And this episode is definitely, I guess, like getting into like a little bit of a spicier, more attitude driven episode. But it's like, I just really got, like, me being in the position I'm in right now, it's like, you really just got to understand, like, once you embrace being uncomfortable and embrace doing the hard work, doing things that's necessary, the things that actually are going to give you the results that you want, and getting uncomfortable doing things you've never done to get to a place you've never been, once you just kind of get yourself in alignment with this type of lifestyle mindset and understand it's not from, oh, I just got to grind and grow all the time. It's about self-worth and self-value and respecting yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you just want a different standard of your life. And it's about just honestly just sticking to a plan and staying disciplined to understand you deserve it. And all you got to do is be over here versus live your life over here. And what I mean by do the work that's necessary, get out of the way, it's like, prime example, easy one, when people start the gym, they always want to, everyone wants to go to the gym and see success. I went on a little bit of a rant with that earlier, right? But it's like, have you tracked your macros before? And let's say a common response to that is like, I've never tracked my macros before, or I've never had a meal plan before, or I've never done this exercise before, or I've never done this physical or mental work before. And it's like, okay, that's great, but it's like, are you willing to do the work that's necessary to get you to the other side of this goal, you know? And it's like, prime example, like, I've had people like join programs and they've been committed the entire duration. They love the workouts, they love the journal prompts, they love the mindset stuff. Their lifestyles ultimately benefit in so many ways, but it's like their excuse always comes down to like, I've never tracked my macros before. And you can give, is like some people, you can give them as many resources, tools, jump on calls and all these different things, but it's just going to be an excuse for them. You know what I mean? It's just going to be an excuse. Like, it's just too much work, And ultimately it comes down to self-value, self-worth. You don't find yourself valuable enough to just, commit to that small duration of learning that standard of life that you need to learn. You know what I mean? Or I haven't had a meal plan before, and it's hard, like big one too, is like I have hard time sticking to the meal plan and things. It's like, okay, I have a hard time sticking to my task at work, my schedule at work, you know what I mean? But if I don't, I'm going to get fired, you know what I mean? But you don't find yourself valuable enough or put enough self-worth, and you follow in your meal plan, you know what I mean? Because it's like you're not doing the hard work that's necessary to get to the goal that you want. And another one too is like with new exercises in the gym, like, people sign up for a program and they have all these exercises, and it's like you don't communicate with your coach what ones you are comfortable doing, which ones you're not. And the ones that you're not comfortable doing, if you completely avoid them, it's like, and then you expect X result to happen, it's like that's part of the plan. You know what I mean? That's like going to class and like having like a whole itinerary, being like, this is how the entire semester is going to go. And you're like, I don't like the subject. And you just skip like 2.5 weeks of schooling, and then you go to the exam and you're like, well, why did I only get an 80? Like, you know what I mean? I aced everything else. It's like, well, yeah, you got an 80, but you fucking 20% of the exam you didn't do, And it's like, that's the same thing that people hold to their standards with their fitness goals and life goals, right? And they're just like, they just don't think certain things they need to do, or they don't do the hard work that's necessary, right? And this is the most that happens with the mental side of like working, right? Is like digging deep and embracing the vulnerabilities, embracing your self-doubts, your fears, and like getting on the other side of those to really understand who you are and why you deserve to have this certain lifestyle, right? But it's like, I guess the best way I want to end on this is like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you don't do the hard work that's necessary to get to yourself to the level that you've never been before, which is why I like how this ties all back into the very first point, which is doing things you've never done to get to where you've never been, that all three of these talking points can put you into a circle of helping you stay committed to the duration of your goal, is because you got to embrace the stress, you got to embrace the vulnerabilities, you got to embrace the side of life of your goals that you've never experienced before. You got to be able to embrace this side and be willing to do things you've never done and understand yourself like this. And that's why I had the second talking point of don't let the small excuses knock you down, and having a little bit of a side tangent with the self-worth thing is so important, because you have to be willing to worthy yourself, hold yourself to such a high value that being uncomfortable and doing things you've never done is worth your time, because on the other side of that is going to be the outcome you deserve. And the craziest thing about it, which is a whole other podcast episode that I can go on a rant about, is once you win once you get 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, once you build a little bit of momentum on like doing this type of hard work that's necessary, doing things you've never done to get to where you've never been, stopped allowing yourself to let these small excuses knock you down, you're going to be amazed at how much momentum you can pick up. And the fucking unreal thing about momentum is momentum loves speed. So the more momentum you get, the faster you're going to grow, the faster you're going to see success, and the faster you're going to ultimately change your life. And I'm a huge testament to that right now, because I've been doing this for 3 to 4 years. 5 years ago, I written up the plan, started it about 4 years ago. 3 years ago, I've been on it immensely. I've been in mentorship programs for the last 3 years, putting at least $5-6 grand out a year just alone to have people tell me how I should run my life, because I'm doing things I've never done to get to where I've never been, and I'm doing the hard work that's necessary, and I'm not letting the small excuses knock me down. So you'd be amazed at how much speed you can gain when you just fucking commit yourself. But other than that, that is it. I appreciate you guys all for tuning in today's episode, and as always, I love every single one of you guys that take the time to support me, listen to the episode, download it, share it, talk about it, whatever it is. I appreciate you all. And other than that, let's have a beautiful week. Let's go.
Who's on my side? I don't know anymore. Cause it's more than a battle, we going to war. And losing again, I just cannot afford. I think it's my time to go even the score. What you see on the surface attached to my core. I'm stacking my paper but feeling for more. One hell of a ride, but I'm staying on board. And now it makes sense what the suffering was for. Cause I got out my head and I got in my bag. No time to be crying, there's money to make. I'll do it, I got it, whatever.